breaking news and critical knowledge. It's explosive, literally, this morning as USA and Israel launch attacks on Iran, the supreme leader regime, who have killed many, many thousands of Iranian protesters protesting the regime. Church is state. I want everybody to understand critical knowledge that you have to understand in relation to the Middle East, Israel, all of it, the world really. And before I move on, let's start with the first thing about one country in particular, the United States of America. They did not create the world we find ourselves in today. You can thank 9 kingdoms for that, which Iran is and was one of those major powers. There's others of the Middle East. 2, in fact, when we look at World War II Axis powers, you find those regimes there on the bad side of the line. When we look at allies, we have serious problems here. And it's all about state and religion and how that goes. For people who don't get it, America is state and religion. They're divided, separated. Government is not church. Church is not government. We, the people system, determine all of that as individuals. This is America, and largely America alone, for a very, very long time. 250 years this year. That is America. That is America on its own. Do not confuse America with the rest of the world that may in fact call themselves democracies. They're usually parliamentary democracies, meaning an elite set of people get the democracy and everybody else participates in who gets to be those with the democracy. Yeah. Totally different systems, not compatible, not even close. Now, we've seen what's happened with Donald J. Trump in protests all year long. A big one. No more kings, no kings. Protests saying Donald J. Trump isn't a king. We don't want to see any of that. He's this dictator. Blah, 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 blah. But in the same mouth, from the same limited protesters in the northern states of the United States, and of course, who? Canada, the complete lie, lying to themselves, showcasing a joke, UK as well too. Everybody, UK created the Israel we see today. They've put that in place since post-World War II. The Israel of today is 100% a constitutional monarchy creation of the former British Empire, rulers of the world. The malfunctions we see of Israel are not from the United States of America, although the United States of America positions itself with Israel over the evil of the Middle East. And understand lesser evils. I want to start with the International Atomic Energy Agency, created by the Allies of World War II for the entire world. Post-World War II, we all, in the aftermath of atomic bombs, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and others in Japan, bombing entire cities, devastating entire populations, to end the war. A war that USA almost lost. A lot of people don't like history. They don't look at the Pacific because the majority of the world in azimuthal mapping, as my friend CJ Fast brings back my video from Facebook Death. He's done a number which are good, really good. There's one he has that's a brilliant video I did at the turn of Trump's inauguration that's very powerful. There was two. CJ has one. There's a second part to that that's very good too. But, folks, the International Atomic Agency, in the views of most of the world, including all Canadians, most church under state governments, which is a lot in this world, a pile. If it's not church is state, which is a lot of Islamist states, it's absolutely all church under state countries. What does that mean? It means the government is above God and the church. They control the churches, okay? You can say that's better than church being state, like Islamist republics, and there is truth to that. There is a lesser evil. But is it evil nonetheless? Yes, it is. That Atomic Energy Agency International, created by the Allies of World War II, in the aftermath of World War II and the bombing of Japan, that had to be done. Because again, in azimuthal mapping, UK is the center of the world, Atlantic Ocean is everything, Pacific is completely ignored because the map rotates. It's a flat earth map. Center of the world is UK. All civilizations come out from the British Empire, but that's not how the world works. It's not how the world looks. It's a globe. That center changes on whoever's viewing it from whatever vantage point their country they want to. Successful nations navigate the world this way. All nuclear programs run that way in the world. All missile defense runs that way in the world. 3D, spherical Earth, that's the truth of the world. That's how satellites work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be giving this video to all of you today. Now, here's the problem. This International Atomic Energy Agency was created for all countries outside of the victorious Allies of World War II. All countries in the world voted for this to go forward because in the aftermath of Japan, nobody wanted Allies routinely bombing and killing anyone they wanted throughout the world. Never again, it was called. And in 1963, in the aftermath of many nations who are either one, church is state, or church is placed under control of state, meaning they're above God, they determine how you have a relationship with God. Literally, not figuratively. They're the in-between person to God. You don't get to God without your government. That's evil. I don't care what anyone says. There is nobody to come forward, any experts to say that that isn't evil according to all mainstream religious texts. Of course it's evil. You can't find Jesus Christ saying anything like that. Yet these nations who participate in that say, oh no, it's okay. We rewrote the Bible and we just ignore that part of Jesus Christ's teachings, New Testament, all of it. We'll live in a lie. We'll create the lie. Not good. But folks, when Iran was faced in 1963 with a choice to sign and ratify the non-testing of nuclear and the creation of nuclear and then subsequent non-proliferation agreement, which is worldwide, all nations agree they're not to have nuclear weapons or nuclear weapon-grade technology. The world agreed to that. That's what was enforced by the allies of World War II, known as the Permanent Five Members of the United Nations Security Council. It's how they achieve international peace and security. You want to go forward, you don't want us to destroy you, you must agree to these terms and conditions. Almost every nation in the world signed it, except, I could get into Pakistan too, but for the purpose of this video and the conflicts we're going through today, I'm going to name the 3 countries who've never ratified non-proliferation, never ratified test ban treaties, 63 to 1996. Absolutely not. That's Israel, that's India, and that's Iran. They have not signed on, do not participate. And folks, understand this. I don't care if you're American or Canadian. These 3 countries refuse to allow the World War II allies in the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, to inspect their countries, to look at their nuclear programs, their facilities, to determine that they're not making weapons-grade uranium. Okay? Why is Israel off the hook? Because they're under the British Empire. India's under the British Empire, which is a veto-wielding country, and nobody can make them as long as UK, one of the allies of World War II, allows them to go that way. Why is Iran different? Because there is no ally from World War II defending them and holding up their rights to breach international law. That's how international law works. You get to do what you want if you have a P5 member standing as your veto, allowing you to continue forward. Understand this. We just had Mark Carney and Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, everybody, the world's greatest source of weapons-grade capable uranium. Best ore in the entire world, bar no other country, 100 times cheaper and of the highest quality than anywhere else in the world. We can look at other countries. There's one other country in the Russian sphere of influence and also in the American sphere of influence that's a close second to Canada, but still far superior. There is nothing like what's found in Saskatchewan and overlap into Alberta. There is nothing like that on this planet Earth, anywhere. And any country that gets their hands on that very cheap ore is quite capable and cheaply able to take that uranium source, or very cheap, and then upgrade it because they don't have the ore refining costs at many hundreds of times everybody else. Scott Moe and Mark Carney just inked another deal for India. Remember, India refused to sign the test ban treaties. India refuses to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to inspect any of its sites and proliferates in secret if they wish to. Why are they able to do that and why nobody says anything? You can thank the UK for that. India is in the Commonwealth. India is one of the Commonwealth nations, as is Canada capable of doing this. Now, what about Iran? What about the P5 power of China and Canada's trade with China on all that uranium ore and many other components to the nuclear enrichment program out of Canada? Canada does that too, with the blessing of who? The United Kingdom and China against the United States of America. Israel, why do they get to continue on their programs that heightens up Iran? You can say Israel's less evil, but as long as Israel's allowed to do it, what do you suppose Iran and other Islamist State terror groups are going to justify and go forward with? Well, Israel's able to do it. Nobody says anything. We're going to do it too. Donald J. Trump is faced, like every president of the United States, with real problems. They don't like church under state. They hate it. They hate it. The problem is what about church is state and radical human rights violations like the many thousands of Iranians murdered for protesting the regime, silenced. Today, internet's at 4% connectivity, only for military and police stations. Kind of what you all see me go through here in Canada all the time when I'm zapped in the middle of GTA, Greater Toronto Area, in major density with high bandwidth, and all of a sudden I have no internet because the topics I'm giving are not popular. Americans, to understand this, radical groups of Americans, far left Canadians on the spectrum, but these are people who are up here going no more King's Day, but yet, in the same note, they support King's Day for Iran, blowing all Americans and Canadians from this radical left side. You just watched a week and a half ago 350,000 Canadian and Iranian waving flags calling for King's Day to bring back the monarchy to Iran. That the Islamist State, church is state, should be placed back to church under state. Just like Canada, just like India, just like the UK model. Let's get it back to the British Empire system. And unfortunately for Donald J. Trump, that's second best scenario. If you didn't know, the UK created Israel, modeled after the Canadian model, with its 10 basic laws, one of which is the exact same Indian Act as Canada's age-old, first of its kind, 1876 Indian Act. It's even older than America's very limited inceptions into the Indian Act more than 10 years after Canada, played around with it for 30 years, and then threw it away because it was anti-American. It was the things that lead to church under state. Yeah, America got rid of it because it didn't match them. They moved on, and then they created a whole new system of we the people for everybody, moving into civil rights, and would complete all of that for all African Americans and all Indian Americans. Indian Americans actually have a separate distinction of citizenship, equal but separated. The only race in North America like that, the original people of North America. Other than that, nobody else gives equality of the person anywhere in any country with church under state. And remember, we're dealing with people who refuse. All these three countries named in the video refuse to allow the allies in charge of international peace and security to come and inspect any of their countries or their facilities. They refuse to sign and ratify any test ban treaties, meaning they will test nuclear weapons if they see fit to do so. We're seeing U.S. criticize China over doing just that, who is a P5 member. But here is the problem. It's for all Americans, all Western democracies. How can you allow these countries who do not have international peace and security, how can you allow your veto to stand for them say you've solved wars, even for President Donald J. Trump, you solved India-Pakistan war, but did you really? Or did you just prolong the inevitable while they all remain church under state? I understand lesser evils. I'm not criticizing President Trump. He's not alone. Every single presidency of the United States has been wrestling with the same question over and over and over. And their response is, well, it's better than church is state radicalization with no human rights than church under state with massive limitations on human rights, with the ability to go AWOL anytime a regime wants to. We'll deal with it then, but let's try this very limited system we know is broken. King's Day, folks, just marched in Toronto. Canadians and Iranian, bring back the monarchy, after the supposed same folks were marching for no more King's Day against Donald J. Trump, calling him a king and a tyrant and all that, but yet they want to bring that tyranny to Iran. That's a good thing, right? Canada's a good thing. It's bad when Donald J. Trump supposedly dabbles in it, right? That's real evil, you dirty son of a bitch. And then these same people come out in groves, many hundreds of thousands, going, bring the monarchy into Iran. Yeah, King's Day, King's Day, King's Day. Church under state, church under state. Do you see all of the massive institutionalized mental illness here? And like I said, I'm not running down President Trump, even though people will blame him. They will confuse the situation, say that he's a monster, he's in with Israel, even though, again, Israel is a UK creation, just as India is too, and they are proliferators, they are developers of nuclear, no different than Iran, refusing to sign off on all the same agencies, and Iran says, well, we're not going to if they don't have to. So how do you ever get any nation to comply when you don't enforce the rules evenly across the board? Again, if anyone's blaming America for Israel or India, Pakistan, you're dead wrong. USA has nothing to do with those creations, those post-World War II inceptions. And remember, America is the new kid on the block. Whether people like it or not, they have only been a real superpower since basically the 60s. They were a superpower defined in World War II, again, with the dropping of atomic bombs and being the first on that front. But remember, it took many decades to proliferate up to superpower status. Same with the Soviet Union. They were very weak and edgy powers that came to be in World War II. They really didn't come on majorly into the scene until the late 60s, both of them. And they were doing that together against each other. But remember, other superpowers still wielded tremendous strength, even all the way up until the 80s. UK, for example. We're only seeing that weakened reality basically from the 90s onward. By 1996, UK, USA, China, Russia, France had finally gotten together to say, let's upgrade this treaty. And then you see the 7 nations not participating at all, in full violation of the UN Charter and what international laws are. This is the problem. And until it's addressed, until things like Canada selling off all this uranium to proliferation countries like India, Canada's the worst monster going. And why are they the worst kind of weapons dealer in the world? I can tell you public enemies number one today, even yesterday, I shouldn't say today, this has actually been going on all through Stephen Harper with the China FIPA deal and the India deal. That's a major one for absolutely uncontrolled, unmonitored nuclear proliferation. Who is the gun dealer of the world in nuclear for these countries who are not in charge of international peace and security? Well, that's your Canada. Now, Mark Carney's ramping it up. He's signing some serious deals, as did the nutjob Justin Trudeau, who's being celebrated all over the world as some kind of big shot hero. He was creating he was creating an environment of proliferation for non-sanctioned allies who are in charge of peace and security in violation of such. Before him, it was Stephen Harper. He started it. That's how far gone Canada is. And if you don't know the massive trade relationship with China and Iran, and Canada's relationship with China and supplying all these critical minerals, metals, deposits to China to create that for Iran, you're sadly mistaken. I can guarantee you Canada is all over that material. It's their sourced ores. It's their sourced minerals. By selling to China and China to Iran, selling to India, leaking it to Iran. Guaranteed. Is the United States responsible? The answer is no. Is Canada responsible? 110%. How are they getting away with that against the United States? It's called the United Kingdom, a P5 ally who has these Commonwealth jewels known as India and Canada. That's why it's happening. Why does Israel exist the way it is? Why does it do what it's doing? Because of the UK, not USA. Is USA using Israel as a springboard for their operations in the Middle East? Of course. Does USA have all kinds of military bases in the Middle East? Of course. Are they fighting for democracy? Would they love to see a we the people system spread throughout the world? Absolutely. They're the only good guys, and sometimes in bed with bad guys, because it's the lesser of evils. That's what they have to do. It doesn't change the fact that it's all evil and it's all anti-American. Never lose sight of that, and never blindly blame the United States for what others have done, especially other powers who are church under state, because that's what they wish to spread. And you're seeing it. And you're going to see later this morning thousands of more Canadian and Iranians waving King's Day, bring the monarchy to Iran. The same people, in much lower numbers, but the same people who are chanting No More King's Day against Donald J. Trump. But yet it's okay for Iran, right? Yeah, we love it. In massive hundreds of thousands, right? Makes total sense, right? It's called institutionalized. It's called perverted. It's called pure evil. But a lesser evil of what's there today. God bless everybody. That's my video. Share, share, share. Critical understanding, critical knowledge. And when you learn these things, you have a better view of the world and what it really is. I don't lie. I just tell the truth. I just tell you how the world is, who's making what decisions, and how we got to where we are, and why things don't make sense. I make sense out of things that don't make sense, and I hope it finds a lot of people well. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye now.